Jake, I think for me, where I start, this is a continuation of a trend that we start to really, that we've seen for weeks now, but has really been pretty stark the past couple of weeks. And that is that you just see this large gap developing between the offense and the defense, just in the terms of their form that they're in and how they're playing right now. One group is moving in the right direction. This LSU defense right now was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, a second week in a row. So you hold Alabama to 6 rush yards last week. That's the lowest ever in their school history. Then you go against this Arkansas team, and to be fair, I actually don't know the box score. I actually don't know how many rushing yards Arkansas ends with if somebody wants to look it up.
It was in the 120s. I talked about it in length after the game, and really when you looked at their top rushers, they both were averaging just 2 yards a carry, and outside of, right before half, they had some success with the delayed draws instead of throwing the football, and that's where they picked up a bulk of their yards. So they were way under their season average. You did
number one rush team.
Yeah, you did defensively exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah, so number one, 16 points in overtime, right? But number one rush team in the SEC, top 5 in the country coming into this game, and you completely shut them down. And you've seen a defense that has grown, right? All of a sudden they're back to a 3-4, which that's even a different conversation. The irony there that suddenly they're back to a 3-4. It seems to be working so well. But they've added these pressure looks after the bye week, all this sorts of stuff. Durante Jones feels very competent. This defensive staff feels very competent. And the players, the results are showing. The defense is injured to all hell. And it doesn't really matter because it's going better. Unfortunately, the complete inverse has taken place on the offensive side of the ball. The kind of Jake Peetz-led regression has continued. And I know that we will talk a lot of Nuss versus Max, but it is clearer to me now than ever that neither of these guys is necessarily being put in the best position to succeed. It's exactly what we said the entire time when people were clamoring for Nuss. Would it really be that much different? And the answer is no, right? Because the problems remain more fundamental in nature. And the greatest irony of this LSU offense, Jake, I have never seen anything like this. I told you this right before the show. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah. The offensive line is actually playing well.
Yeah.
Remember on last week when we learned about the 2 guards being out, I was like, that's this huge weak spot. I expect that to be attacked. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. And I said I think Arkansas is going to win barely because of that. It was not the difference in the game. I was dead wrong. Marlon Martinez played really well. Dellinger played well. We'll get into Thomas and some of the others that they're improving, but they absolutely played well enough to win. And it's weird because this offensive line's gotten better and better and better, but the offense has gotten worse. And how's that even possible? The only way I can try to make sense of that is, first off, you definitely miss Keishawn Butte. That continues to be kind of a black hole of playmaking that is hurting you. But second, it's everything that we always talk about, the mechanics, the operation, just the core, the foundation of this. Yes. The foundation of this offense, it's just so suspect.
The tendencies, that's something that you continue to notice, right? It's depending on personnel, it's going to be this, 92% of the time. And if this personnel comes in, 93% of the time it's going to be this.
Ugh, I didn't know about that.
The numbers are pretty stark. And you can really look at Jack Besh and Jack Mashburn and really kind of figure out by formation and by alignment what's going to take place. You don't want to become predictable. You don't want to fall into tendencies. That's 2 things you never want to do, and even that's happening right now. There's a 5-play sequence where you can be like, here comes this, here comes that, here comes, right? So obviously defensive coordinators, well, they've seen that as well, and they know that. I forget what the number was last week against Alabama. It was Besh was in there 34 snaps, and 27 or 28 were passes, right? And even when he's lined up in that wing position, he's going underneath, faking the zone block, and then going out to the flats. And it's worked some this year. And I'm in full favor of getting Jack Besh on the field full time, not just in these certain packages and the tight end experiment, all that. Just put him out there. I don't care where he's at, just put him out there. But you can't fall into tendencies like that because they're going to have their best play call against you, knowing that, look, if you do this 92% of the time, if I call this defense, if you get me on that 8%, I'm going to tip my cap to you and say, okay, let's line up and play again.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of guys are having to try to succeed in spite of the plays that are being called instead of because of them. And I mean, even counter, right? Teams are so ready for counter. The ends are immediately crashing down and wrong arming, and I mean, backers are just jumping. I mean, it's like hurtling to the hole, right? But credit to the boys, they're still running it pretty well, right? Like they're not being put in best position, but they're actually just playing well and managing to find some success where there just shouldn't be that much success. And so that's why this all becomes, or one of the key reasons why this all becomes so frustrating. And you heard it from O after the game. I mean, did you listen? Did you get the chance? I know y'all are recording me last game.
We did the hurry up right after. I did hear some.
Did you get a chance to go back? Or did anybody talk to you about it?
Yeah, I've heard some of the audio, and you can feel his frustration in the offense for sure.
Big time. I mean, basically confirming. At first, he was kind of speaking between the lines. I think it was Cobble that was like, you're kind of like, if I'm reading between the lines here, and the O basically stopped and goes, yeah, we got to call better plays. I mean, it's just that simple. Jake, how do you feel about a fade from the 10 after the big 3rd and 20 in overtime?
I hate goal line fades, but certainly from that far out. Like if you're on the 8-yard line, that's so much space and such a far throw, and the DB has so much time to recover and to react. Like if you're on the 3, it's completely different, right? You're on the 3-yard line, it's a different throw. I still don't love it. And you make a throw on 3rd and 20 to pick it up. You run on 1st down. Okay. Like that's just not who you are. And that play it's just such a give up play. It's
lazy.
So 50-50.
It's what it always felt like to me. It's just lazy.
At best. Yeah, it is. That's a great way to put it. That's what it is. You've got a quarterback that's got some mobility. Like if you want to get him out and
no. Let's not even. No, we don't running the quarterback. Come on, Jake. Come on. We got to be careful here. No. I mean, running the quarterback. What are you, crazy? Quarterbacks are meant to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. Okay.
Well, just when you think about how much they like to get Max out of the pocket, rolling to his right, and he's a left-handed quarterback. Like Nuss throws really well on the run. And if you want to roll that right-handed quarterback to the right, let's do that some as well.
Well, it's like if you're going to. It's very frustrating for the pick to come exactly on a no-brain decision. Like and this is basically what O said after the game, like on a decision that the coach is making for the player. Like you are throwing that route. That is the call. You have to throw that ball there. And so for that to get picked in that fashion is disappointing because you took out all the you took out the playmaking ability of the kid, right? Like you don't give him a chance to improvise. You don't give him a chance to have options. That's something I continue to come back to, Jake. There are no options for the quarterbacks on half these plays. I mean, they're hitting the last step in their drop, and they got to get rid of the ball, and guys haven't even broken out of their routes yet. And that's not on the players. It's literally just the timing of these like super long developing route concepts, and then keeping your running back in and never having him turn around just for a little check down. I mean, there's literally no check downs. It feels like
there's no
half the plays.
No.
Like I'm not crazy,
no,
right?
You're not.
Yeah. Like I wasn't even sure about what I was seeing because of how absurd it felt. So that's validating to hear that. It was just, what are you supposed to do? You're almost forcing them to hold on to the ball at that point. And well, the results speaks for itself. And you mentioned running the ball. I mean, how frustrating is it to watch KJ Jefferson? And they didn't run it well. But in the end, it was KJ Jefferson's legs that did win Arkansas the game, right?
Yeah.
And here you sit, and you seen the quarterback run the ball once, twice, all year long. It's just inexplicable.
Yeah, Arkansas's rushing yards, they netted 139 yards on 40 carries, so only 3.5 yards per carry. Their long run was 28. That was that draw right before halftime. So 2.7 for Jefferson. Johnson only had 2.8. I mean, you did really nice job on what their strength was. In the 142 yards he threw through the air, obviously a bulk of that came on the busted coverage when you had him sacked and he was able to spin out of it. But look, we could talk about those plays, really, and we could talk about getting the guy on the ground, and certainly you have to do that. I realize all that, but look, the defense played their ass off.
The defense is not. I mean, it's not to say that it's perfect.
It's not perfect, but it was damn near close.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you watch that film and you're like, okay, that's a damn good defense. Again,
listen to this. Micah Baskerville had 12 tackles, 2 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. Damone Clark, 11 tackles, a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss. Of
course.
Okay, B.J. Ojulari had 2 tackles for loss. Sonny Fanu, 2 tackles for loss. You had 10 tackles for loss in this game. Jaquelin Roy had 1 as well. You had 3 sacks. I mean,
3-4 is working. What? Like,
and
what the hell,
like tackles
man?
for loss against that Arkansas team is pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
And you had 10 of them.
What the hell, though, man? So, yeah, part of the defensive success the last 2 weeks is that during the bye week, they basically put in a lot of 3-4 stuff. They had not yet. And so now we arrive at this great ironic endpoint where after you made this huge deal of shifting out of a 3-4 to a 4-3, basically forced guys like Ipu Ika out of town, now you're like, oh, you know what? I guess we're a 3-4 team again. And it's working. Like with getting Baskerville, Damone Clark, and Mike Jones on the field at the same time was really paying dividends. Ojulari and Mike Jones on the edges look great as those 3-4 outside linebackers. Neil Farrell, while maybe not as much of a true nose as I think Apu's just like a bit like just a bit bigger. I don't know. Neil's maybe more of a 3 thing. Maybe I'm wrong there, but either way, this team ironically now the 3-4 is just paying huge dividends.
No, it is. And
it's just kind of darkly comical.
And you do have some guys that still fit a personnel in a 3-4, you know what I'm saying? Just you have guys that are left over. You have guys that are kind of playing a new position that are thriving so far. So, you know, when hiring whatever you end up doing, like, you know, we don't know. Like, we don't know which defensive pieces will still be retained or which direction they'll go. But it is nice for the new coach to know you can kind of run either one of them.
Well, and you're always going to be a little bit multiple, but, like, something to think about during the break here. We'll go to break and be right back as I want to talk about the turning point of the game. But who are the great? And I don't know I'm missing him here. So I'm not saying there aren't any. I'm literally asking, like, who are the great, like, 4-down, like, base 4-down defenses left in college football? Because it feels like almost everybody is starting to go to more 3-down looks. But we'll get to that as well. Turning point of the game coming up next. Keep it locked right here on Off the Bench. So obviously everybody nailed it. You know, I kind of teased the turning point, and it is the Wildcat fumble. And you know what's funny, Jake, is that up to that point, and I know we've been ripping on Pete in the offense a lot this year, I was actually kind of liking some of the conceptual stuff I was seeing offensively early on, where when you had Arkansas on their heel, you were doing some nice tempo usage to get a couple of first downs. You had a 3rd and 1 that you got, Jake, where they were in the muddle huddle, and then they, like, broke it fast and got to the line, and I was like, okay, there's like some building blocks here. And then you tried to throw in some Wildcat out of nowhere.
In that moment, okay, in that
off.
drive, you're up 10-3. You get the ball back, Kiner rushes for 3 yards. Then you hit a 17-yarder to Jack Besh, and then you hit an 18-yarder to Jack Mashburn. Okay, so you're set up. You're on the Arkansas 18. You're about to, at minimum, be 13-3.
Yep.
Right? And then you roll that out there. You roll something that can go wrong a million different ways, and it did, that you don't do.
Kind of gives you an appreciation for the quarterbacks and how well they handle those shotgun snaps.
Yeah, it's different, and you don't specialize in that, right? You know, even like TDP, like as well as he's played, he's been fantastic down the stretch. Like he's not a guy that catches a lot of footballs, right? That's if Clyde's back there, it's probably a little different. I mean, he's used to handling the ball in space. Okay, so all that being said, like you have the chance to close the door, and look, Wildcat is a nice little change of pace if it's something where you do, and Saints have Taysom. Arkansas, the team you're playing, they had Darren McFadden, Ronnie Brown for the Dolphins. That was great.
Wild Dolphin, baby.
Okay, but that's not what you have.
Yeah. Well, you haven't done it.
You haven't done it. Well, and after a 17-yard gain, an 18-yard gain, that's just puzzling to roll that out there. Something you haven't done when you've got a chance to close the game. Especially
because at that point, Nussmeier had not been rhythmic at all, right? Like
and that was the most rhythm he had been in. And after that, still, that was the only spot.
It's kind of funny, too. I've never – and now he got the spin-out touchdown to start the second quarter, right, which was awesome. But before that, I've never seen a player get as much credit for not actually doing anything. It's like – people are like super hyped on Nuss' first couple of series, and then now it's just like, he hasn't completed a pass, but it definitely has given a bolt of energy to them. I'm like, what are we talking about here, dude? But then you were getting him in that rhythm, and that was after the huge play. So you're like, okay, you have the highs and the lows and everything, but now you got to work on that middle portion. And we'll get to more on Nuss, but yeah, I thought, what's funny, Jake? I thought the visual of the fumble kind of felt like LSU season as a whole, where it ended up being a bit comical. And it sucks because TDP has played like great, but
it should have been a false start, by the way, on Nussmeier. Danny, can you roll that back from the get-go? It should have been a false start, see?
Oh, wow. And so this reinforces how dumb the Wildcat decision was, because not only did Nuss screw up there, but watch, Cardell Thomas doesn't move either. He wasn't ready for the snap. So because TDP's calling for the snap and not Nuss, like everything's off. Yeah. Everything's off.
Yeah, whatever play they were going to run, because so you had a false start from Nussmeier. Anyway. You had
Cardell
Thomas is a good second and a half behind everybody else. Whoever he's supposed to
block.
Called
delay pull, Jake. Maybe you should read on modern football theory. Okay.
Yeah, there's not a thing called a delay pull.
But
you're trying to run power. You're running Q power. It's going to get blown up. Ty's going to get hit in the backfield, and everything about this play, even like the center, Liam Shanahan, probably snaps it early here.
I would actually like to give Liam some credit, though, because I've been so critical of him all year long, and he's been really good lately, for whatever that's worth. Liam Shanahan has really played much, much better as of late. But that was just a clown show. That's what that was. And it's funny, too, because it almost looked like a cartoon, like Scooby-Doo, where like they run in place. Like TDP's feet, they were churning, but it just didn't go anywhere. He literally like tripped himself, and then his body caused himself to throw the ball away from him. I mean, that's LSU season. I mean, just replay that, Danny.
That's so bad.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you understand what I'm saying. This is LSU season, and a visual representation of finishing last place in the West. And it's only worse when you know contextually where it came in the game, where you had a chance to make it 13-3, 7.
Oh my God.
And that's not really on TDP. Again, that's what we're talking about. We're being put in positions to succeed. That was a needless risk at the end of the day. So that was a turning point.
Yeah. And I know we're going to have the quarterback conversation later in the show. I mean, I think this game kind of showed you, kind of like a lot of times last year for the linebackers, like what position they were put in and what they can be. So no one should be giving up on Max or Nussmeier right now.
That's the other thing I hate. Now people are like, Nuss ain't it. Like I saw kind of that kind of stuff. I'm like, what?
Right now, they're not being put in great positions to succeed right now, like currently with what's being thrown out there.
Bama can LSU get an OC that calls all of the plays, even third down. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that too. Okay, as we go to break, though, I'll clear this up real quick. So Tom Hart told a story on the broadcast about Jake Peetz leaving practice because the quarterbacks are playing bad, and basically like left him with a script and was like, y'all stay out here. Y'all need to practice more. That was not in the middle of practice. That was after practice. I do have that confirmed. I had like a lot of people ask me about that yesterday at Friendsgiving. So shout out to Mark Sotil. Puts on an incredible Friendsgiving, by the way. Just fantastic. When we get back, let's close out hour number 1 of Off the